After the successes of putting the engine mostly back together, my workshop became a complete mess. So I am going to do some more work on the engine, including fitting, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to tinker with it. But I need to have a damn good tidy up first, so that's what I'm going to do. That's better. It might not look like much of an improvement, but for me this is actually quite tidy, and I've uncovered some of the bits that I needed to start reassembling the front cover and the windage tray, or windage tray, whatever you want to call it. And I found the sump as well, which I hadn't really lost, but I'd kind of neglected that it needed cleaning. One minor setback: there is a real downside to drinking tea out of a pint glass, because if you knock it over, it's like easy to knock over, and if you do knock it over, you lose a hell of a lot more volume. And I basically spilt a whole pint of tea across all of this, which then drained down, filled up my tool trays, and delayed my work, which is quite irritating. Plus I never got to drink it, which is even more annoying. I have here the windage tray, or windage tray, that needs a good scrub. I've got the bolts and the washer that hold that in, the pickup strainer and bracketry that needs to be hammered back into round, and that gauze needs a damn good clean. So that's going to go in the underside of the engine. And then front cover, I've just started cleaning up the gasket faces, doing a crude clean. It's actually a really excellent one. There are no broken studs, which is quite common. All of the threads for the water pump are perfect. The threads for the sump are perfect. And most importantly, the oil pump housing, which is integral in the front cover, is really quite good. There's no deep scoring. There is one slight problem with it, and it's a bit of a weird one that I've not had before, but I'm sure it's common. Obviously this is all cast alley, or an alloy of some sort, and a piece of steel or something very hard has gone through the pump and then been smashed into the side of the pump housing there. So I can just point to it with my fingernail right there, and it's a rough spot. So that's probably scored the gears, which I haven't found yet. They're in one of these bags or down there somewhere. But if I don't get that out, whatever pump gears I put in there will get scuffed up by that, and it'll break up more particles and generally be a big bad idea. Oh, have I just picked it off? No, I haven't. There's still a burr there, even if I've got the steel out, but yeah, that'll need some attention. Anyway, I'm wittering, and I'll clean up stuff and report back when I'm actually bolting things together. This is taking forever, but I'm cleaning up the windage tray thing with a drill with a wire wheel on the end of it. But it's a pain because it's well baked on there. I probably don't need to, but I figured the whole engine is being essentially renewed, and all of the rotating components apart from conrods and pistons and the little end bearings, so it'd be silly not to get all of the crud and crap off this, because it could break off and then go through the oil ways, which might be a problem. Still having a super time cleaning stuff. Windage tray done. I'm doing the pickup strainer now. That is the crap that was inside it, so good job I took it apart, get rid of all this shite, because although the oil filter will get it, there's no point putting an engine back together again with this stuff in there already, just in case the filter does gum up or do something weird. What was I doing? Oh yeah, cleaning stuff up. That is part of the bracket for the pickup strainer. That is the rest of the pickup strainer. The gauze is there. I'm wanting to clean the inside of the pickup tube up to the pump, and I mean, who knew windscreen wiper blades had so many uses? I don't know whether you're watching this video series or how I'm going to upload it, but basically I took one apart to use it, I think, first to help me find top dead center on the engine, then to make a feeler gauge so that I could set my hydraulic tappet follower preloads, and now I'm using it as a tool to scrape the inside of there. So I've got an old Scotch-Brite pad and then hammered the end of the wiper over, so I've got a little scrubby pokey tool. So I shall assault this now in various manner and clean it out inside. After what feels like an absolute age, I finally get to bolt something back into the car or the engine. I just got to remember which way round it goes. Well, it must go that way. There is a few other bits that need to go in first. Main cap number 4 has a threaded hole in it for this, which is a stud to hold pickup strainer, oh sorry, the windage tray, and then the pickup strainer. So that goes in first. Then this is where again the workshop manuals come in handy, because I can't remember what it was like. Stud, spacer, plate, and then the washer. So I need this kitty next. And then there's a fine thread nut somewhere in here, soaking. Oh well, you get the idea. It is in here somewhere. That might actually be the washer that's meant to go on. I will pause here. Yeah, it was stud, big fat chubby washer, Boss. And the other washer, which I have now put there, is for the underside of the pickup strainer. So that goes on. Like so. And then I've got my 6 little bolts with spring washers to go in there. Cool. Trays on. Pickup strainer next. And in here we have a new paper seal gasket thing. Now if I was using the GoPro I could shove it in my mouth, whereas right now I'm using the iPhone. Jesus Christ. There we go. Right, new paper gasket. Pickup strainer. Well, it's not particularly interesting really, is it? That's cool. Something constructive and shiny fitted. So that's all nice. Logical step would now be fit the sump. But I can't, because the front cover has to really go on first. And then I put the sump on afterwards and hold it all together, because the front cover actually seals this part. So I've run out of time tonight. I've got to go and cook dinner. So until next time. I was just about to walk out of the garage or the workshop, and I got a bit paranoid of the weight of the engine now fully assembled nearly on the engine stand, and it was really sort of cocking over, and I was worried I might be straining the lugs at the back of the block, which, although it's alley, they probably could bend. So I've put a bottle jack under the front just to kind of support it a bit. I mean, there's an awful lot of angle of dangle, but yeah, better than nothing. It's the next morning and I'm busy cleaning and finding stuff really. I've cleaned up the crank pulley. I have also cleaned up and degreased the sump, ready for painting, and it's warming on the radiator. The can is warming over there. I got fed up of cleaning things, and while I was going through my boxes of bits that I took off the engine, I found my new drains for the block. there's one on either side. That's an original one. This part here is a conventional right hand thread on a taper. This bit to actually open the bleed valve is a left hand thread, so that obviously as you're opening the valve to let water out of the block, you're not accidentally unscrewing the whole union from the block. But they seize up and they go gammy and horrible, so I'm going to put a bit of copper slip on the thread between the two pieces, sort of in there, and then this is a taper, so it should bite into the alley and seal nicely. But I'm also going to put some Hylamar blue, if I can find some. There we go, non-setting stuff. So these will get screwed in one either side down here. They're a complete arse to get to, particularly on the other side where the starter goes. So I'm doing them first before I forget. You can see what I mean about access. Even with a spanner, it just clashes on everything because they have the little thumb wheel. Whoops. Where are we? I won't bother editing that because I can't be bothered. Right, then because of the wings on there, you can't actually put a socket over the top, so they end up being very annoying. So yeah, my advice, either block them off completely or fit them and remove them when the block is stripped to basically nothing. Don't want to go mega. Oops. And then make sure that they are closed. Hello again. I have no idea where this video is going to sit once it's edited and uploaded, because I think it's been about 6 weeks since I did anything on this engine. That's been for a number of reasons, but mostly it's been work and dotty. So I've had all the bits, I just haven't had any time to do it, which has been really frustrating. I had got to the stage, and you might have just watched this in a video, so I might be boring you, but anyway, I'll pretend like I haven't just uploaded that, if I have or not. Oh, basically, I got to the point where I was going to put the front cover on, didn't have the right gasket, because I had one for a later Land Rover with the different oil pump, which has a different front cover and different water pump, so that did cause me a slight delay. It turned out I had some anyway, but I've bought one or two new ones. I've got the front cover with the water pump and all of the brackets and things arranged. It's quite a complicated affair because you need the power steering bracket, you need the pickup sensor for the crank pulley, and the diagnostics plug and the water pump, and all those bolts go all the way through the front cover onto the front of the engine. So it pays to be organised and find all the bolts and everything. Then the other interesting point, these are steel bolts and they go into the alloy block. In the various manuals you get told to put different sealers on the threads of the bolts to prevent them seizing. So this is the early 1976 manual, or 77, and it says to use 3M EC776. That's the same in the 1980s SD1 book. By 1994, with the Range Rover, even though it's the same sort of arrangement of cover, they say use Loctite 572. So I've just done a bit of a Google to see what those are. EC776 is a fuel-resistant coating, general-purpose, solvent-based adhesive coating. So it's like something sticky, you just shove it on the threads, and it's, I guess, designed as some sort of anti-seize, but better than copper slip. The Loctite is a low medium strength thread sealant, so again it's like they're telling you to put stuff on the threads to stop them seizing in the block. This is what I've observed in the past. Not only can the threads of the bolts themselves get welded into the block and snap off, but you can actually get some, let's see if I can get this to focus, nasty corrosion. This one isn't particularly bad, but this is one of the bolts that goes right through the cover, and you get this really nasty corrosion, and it eats away and you can end up with a bolt that's really thinned out, necked out, and they just snap off here rather than at the block, which is also really annoying. So what I tend to do is I cover the whole bolt in Hylamar blue, which acts, you shouldn't probably use it in this, but I've never had a problem with the engines I've taken apart. Mind you, they've only been together for about 3 or 4 years, so people will tell me I'm wrong, and I don't really care because it's just what I'm doing. But the reason I've listed all these is so you know what you should be doing. You don't necessarily need to follow me. But what I'll do is I'll take all of these bolts out. I'll cover the threads in the Hylamar blue and all the way along the side of the bolt. Then I might go back and put a tiny bit of copper slip on the end as well. And then when that's in there, it shouldn't seize and it shouldn't corrode just from like general conditions in the engine bay. So after that rather long protracted explanation, I will now start putting things together again. And also the mug of tea, or pint glass of tea, has returned. Somebody asked why have I got a pint of tea, and it's just because I'm lazy and I can't keep bothering to go up and down the garage to make another cup of tea, so I just have a pint one. It lasts longer. There is a bit of an order to this. This can't go on until the crank pulley's on, so you have to put the cover on, then I'll put the seal in, then I can put the crankshaft through, then I can put this bracket crank pulley through, then I can put this sort of arrangement on. So it is a bit of a fiddle, and it's worth having everything set up ready. That's the Hylamar blue that I'm going to be putting on the bolt threads, and that's the Loctite black, which I'm going to use to seal between the paper, where is it, paper gasket and the block. One other thing to be super careful of, they made lots of different engines and lots of different timing covers over the years. Not only do you need the shape to be right, but you need all of the holes to be right. Sometimes down here where the oil pump gallery goes through, you're missing a hole and you won't get oil pressure. So if I look at this one, that goes like that. I'm pretty sure there's one engine, or that sometimes one of these is not right. So just double check you've got all of these holes where you actually need them before you put your cover on. Because I know somebody who had to take their engine again apart, it wasn't me, in order to try and get that right. So yeah, don't screw it up. Just making an observation, one of the reasons those bolts might get corroded is they're very close to this gallery. So if you don't seal between the water gallery and that bolt thread there and there, perhaps that's why some of them I've taken apart have been really badly corroded in that area. Timing cover balanced on. That is the wrong, of course, water pump gasket. That's the one for the Range Rover. I need to go and find the correct one for my water pump, which will be somewhere around here, but where exactly? Ah, there it is. Cool. Now that was easy. Right, so yeah, that's going to go on there. And for that, again, I could use Hylamar blue because it's fine with coolant, but I'm actually going to use a Loctite black because, I don't know, always just seems to work brilliantly with everything. That's on and nipped up. The bigger ones that go right through into the block, they're to be done to 27 Newton meters. And the water pump to the timing cover is also 27. So bish bash bosh, I'll torque all of those up. Then I'll fit the front timing cover to crank pulley seal, put the crank pulley on, and then I can put my power steering bracket and the rest of the timing thing. So that's all on now, everything's torqued up. A minor point, these smaller ones, the book says do them up to 27 Newton meters. All they do is hold the water pump to the timing cover. Just felt horrible and I didn't want to strip a thread, so I only did them up to about 20 Newton meters. On one of them I didn't even go that far, it just felt wrong. It hasn't stripped, but yeah, I think maybe 27's optimistic, and maybe it's fine for a brand new engine, never been used before, but I didn't bother. That's all on. My nice newly zinc passivated power steering pump bracket is on. Crank pulley is on, and I've just done that up by hand. I'll go and get my rattle gun in a minute when I can find it, and I'll buzz that up. Then I'll torque it when it's actually in the car. Next thing, go and have some lunch. After that I'll turn the engine over and fit my sump. Gasket is there, bolts laid out over there, and then really it's the inlet stuff. Fun. Engine is now upside down. The sump gasket is a cork type one, and the pan is pressed steel. What can happen is you'll take this off and you'll find that some moron has tightened it up, and not moron, that's not fair. People err on the side of caution and really do these things up tight, and what happens is it pulls up here but gaps out here, and it basically deforms the pan. So this one's not so bad. I've dressed it with a hammer just to make it parallel or to the block, and it's really surprising how little these bolts get torqued up. I think that's part of the problem. People look at them, think it's quite a nice meaty bolt and wang it, and actually the ones that go around, the majority are 11 Newton meters, and it's only the ones at the back which sit on top of the cruciform that are done up to about 20, I think it is. So oil sump to cylinder block 11 and 24. So yeah, rear of cylinder block 24 and the rest are 11. So the ones at the back are different because this steel bar, big chunky piece of metal, sits right across and crushes down onto the tips of the cruciform gaskets which are there, which should be standing about 1.5mm proud. So that's what I'm going to do. More of that Hylamar black on the block, more, put the gasket on, then again, then bosh it on, do it up. Sump is now on. I probably put a bit too much sealer on, so I'm the moron, but it can't go anywhere because it can only go into the sump. Then it might get drawn into the pickup strainer, but I doubt it. And then if it gets through that, it'll get mashed by the gears of the pump and then filtered out in the oil filter. So even if there is a few dollops in there, shouldn't matter. Had my lunch. Now I've opened my box of more shiny things. This is random lifting brackets and engine brackets, alternator adjustment bracket, and of course that power steering bracket. I sent them all the way to be zinc passivated. Originally these would have been done in a kind of silvery colour, so they do look a bit kind of cheap and tacky in zinc passivate yellow, but I think it looks cool. I was gonna paint all this stuff black, but the paint doesn't always stay particularly well, so I just thought, well, I'll get a bundle of brackets and things done. That is the one for the front here, and then that is the one, I think, for over there. So I'll just fit all those up now before I get on with the inlet. Forgot I'd also had the timing pointer done, which goes on there. That can go on now because the crank pulley's on, and then that was the other lifting bracket which went over there somewhere. In fact, if I'm very clever, I have good bolts are already there. Cool. Just putting the oil pump cover back together. I can't remember whether I described these in detail and what I was doing. This is the cover that came out of my car, and I'm going to be reusing it because I'm reusing the same cover and I'm reusing my same original gears. So they're all a matched set, and that means that they won't create loads of new wear particles. That is what a brand new one looks like. Perfect. All of the anodizing is on there, no scratches whatsoever. That is what a pretty okay second-hand one looks like. No, there's a couple of deep scores, but nothing major. This is what a really crap second-hand one looks like, where somebody's actually linished it and got rid of all of the aluminium anodizing, and then it's just going to wear out really quickly. I have... Oh, that wasn't very clever. Yeah, I was reinstalling the pressure relief valve. The barrel is in there. That's the spring. Where am I? And I was just checking that it was all in and moving as it should do, and it does. There's a bit of scoring on it, but it doesn't seize or stick or anything, so that's all moving nice and free. So I can put the cap and the copper washer back in, and then my two sensors, and then we're good to go. Or two sensors and a plug. I do have brand new gears, but I just don't want to fit them. I think it's nicer to reuse these ones because they have already worn together. If I put a brand new cover on with brand new gears, it all has to wear back together again, so not a lot of point really. So I'm going to fit this all back together, fit the gears, pack it full of Vaseline, new gasket, and then put it all back together again. Now I've satisfied myself which way around all the gears go, I am going to stuff it all full of petroleum jelly, which will enable me to prime it. So that's a cute little bunny on there. Just going to stuff it all in, push the gears in, then clean the top surface off, ready for the gasket and the cover. So those, all the cavities and everything were pre-stuffed with grease or Vaseline. Then I crammed the gears in, and now I'm just forcing more Vaseline in to make sure that all of the interfaces between all of the gears is absolutely whacked in there, same as packing a wheel bearing or something. All of this will have to be cleaned off the top surface. Don't worry if it keeps disappearing down that bit, because that's actually disappearing up into the engine. And I don't mean that hole, I mean like the gear there, that's the one that drives it up. So yeah, just really stuffing it in. It is a bit weird when you go to the supermarket and buy a massive vat of petroleum jelly. Never mind. Right, gasket is on, and again I've used the Loctite black. It's a paper gasket. I made the mistake once in the past of putting an oil cover on without any sealer, thinking that the paper gasket would be enough, and it wasn't. It leaked, and I had to take it all apart again in the car, which was a pain. So this time I have just used the Heinemar black, and hopefully it'll be alright. And those are the bolts, and they get torqued to 11 Newton meters because they're what they UNF equivalent of about M5, M6. So into alley, it's never going to be a lot. So that is on, all done up. I couldn't get a torque wrench onto some of them, so I just did it with a spanner. That is a genuine new old stock new part filter just to keep the dust out. I was going to move on to the valley gasket and the inlet, but I won't do that because I've got all my bits back from powder coating to build up the, sorry, not powder coating, zinc passivate to build up all the throttle linkage and stuff. The plenum top is over there, but although I've cleaned this up, it still looks a bit grubby, so I might see if I can get it vapor blasted or something, make it look shiny. I did even think about getting it blasted and powder coated, but I don't know, I haven't reached a decision yet. But anyway, even though it's a nice lovely day and I'd love to spend more time playing in the garage, I actually have work to do in the house, which really is annoying, but never mind, that's the way it goes. So see you next time.